Hi Naomi, I see you've decided to work with some small toy soldiers as a way of working with miniatures. I wanted to point out one thing about your contact sheets that it's actually been happening all course and I haven't brought to your attention, but I thought I would so you fix it for the next week, week 5, and then for your next courses. But do you see in the image, this is what I'm seeing for your full contact sheet. So the area that's being used is very small. So it seems like you're printing on a legal size piece of paper, so you need to check your settings in Lightroom when you do your contact sheet and make sure that you're choosing the right preset and that we're filling the page. So for example, when I zoom in to this, um, when I get to the point where I can see the images, they start to break up and they get all pixelated and so on, so it's hard for me to see. So just what you need to do is have an 8.5 by 11 size and not have all that extra space around it. For some reason you've got that. All right, so moving on to the assignment then, and I did want to mention too, make sure to post in week 1 assignment 1 the documentation of your equipment. That's very important that you do that so that we have that all resolved. But for this assignment, you use basically 2 lighting setups. One looks like a cloudy diffuse day outdoors, and you set up a situation where you could, um, like your concept is basically a battle between the tanks and um, the small figures. One thing I noticed is they're pretty far away from each other for your depth of field, so you're either getting, it seems like it's hard to get both in focus. So I think probably next time getting them a little bit tighter to each other would help you do that. Or depth of field, because you've got f5, which is a pretty wide aperture. I see f4 here, um, f5 pretty much. So if you close down to I'm not sure why you're varying between f4 and f5, but if you close down to f8, f11, you're going to get a little better depth of field. Um, Make sure you always use your camera on manual. I'm just seeing some changes in shutter speed and aperture here. I'm not sure why you're going. Basically, when you have a still situation like this, you could use a really slow shutter speed and then really um, use a very small aperture like f16 to get better depth of field. I think I can't see, because they're so small, I can't see the focus on some of these, but these seem to be some of the better ones just because we can see more what's in focus. Now for your indoor ones, you did a much more dramatic light with a one light setup and didn't use a reflector, so you've got really sharp shadows, used harsh light. So it gives the impression of early morning light, direct sunlight coming from the side. And I see from your lighting setup that you had, this doesn't look like the lighting setup for those shots. Probably had the light a little bit lower because I'm looking to see how long the shadows are. So I think you had the light a little bit perhaps a little lower when you actually made the images. But you do need to, I think there's one thing that I'm missing from many of your assignments too, is just stepping back and shooting your lighting setup as you do it, not afterwards. Showing me afterwards doesn't really let me know anything. I need to see kind of the changes you make as you go. Probably in this particular one, a reflector would have helped, adding a white reflector on this side to help bring some of the light back in, fill the shadows a little bit. It's so dramatic that it looks like it's shot in a studio, and you're really trying to create the idea of shooting on a beach, I guess. The tire tread idea was a nice touch. I see that there, and that's a real. I like that idea that you actually thought about recreating tire tread in order to create that illusion of a real battle. All right, so here's the images you selected for your finals. This is probably number 1 and number 3 are probably the 2 best images because they're sharp for one. So we've got this soldier is sharp. We see enough of the tanks in the background that we get a sense of what they're doing. Um, and then, but again, here's the one where more depth of field would have helped you. That would have brought in the tanks a little more clear. Right now they're just kind of blobby. Your middle image, you've got your focus off. See how it's focused on the rocks right here in front? And then we can't really even see these figures in the background. They're kind of disguised. So what you want to do is you want to focus on one or the other rather than between, on the tanks or the men would work better. And then this one is also one of your better shots. We've got from above looking down and the light comes dramatically. Then there's nice tire treads here creating the idea What this does is create scale so that they look like they fit, with your toy soldiers. So good change in mood. What I like about what you approached is that here you used a cloudy diffuse light, and then here you went with a single harder light that created those dramatic shadows.